So once you've started modeling your building, the next thing we want to do is start actually setting up some views or some scenes. So you can see how I have a few set up here already. And I have some sections, some floor plans, all that. So let's set up a couple here. So maybe we'll do another 3D from this angle. If we go up here to our camera, let's change this to 2-point perspective. We can go down here to our scenes and we can click New Scene. It's going to call that Scene 7. And so what we can do here is just rename this. We'll call this Front Porch 3D View. And you can also see that here I have my scene in hidden line view, which is actually good because that's what we will want to bring it into Photoshop. We can go here and go to Face Style and change it to Shaded with Textures. And if we want to update this view, we can just right-click and go Update Scene and Update, and it'll update that with that new style. And if we want to adjust the view, kind of maybe change the perspective a little bit, again, we can just do Update Scene, and it'll update with that updated information. So that's how we get that updated. I just want to show one more view creation that's a little bit more complicated here. So the one thing you can't see in mine right now that I have turned off, or maybe I do have it turned on, we can create some sections, and we can do a few different things with sections. So we can create floor plans. We can also create some elevations, and then also the building sections themselves. So where is my tool section? Let's see section. Section. There we go. So with our section, now that we have our siding on, you just want to be a little careful because it looks like this is actually on an angle. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to go down to my foundation. I'm going to place my section on my foundation. We'll call this section 2. And then we can grab our move tool and just move this section in slightly so we can see it. You can pick where you want that to go. All of my sections I actually have set up as a tag as well. So I have this section set up as annotation sections, and then I can then turn on and off all my section lines really easily. And so that's how we create the section. With our floor plan, if we want to do a floor plan section, let's turn off active cut. We'll go up here to our top, and we can create another section here. And what we can do with this is we'll just find a peak. And when you're on the peak of the roof, it will go blue like this. So we'll just click like that. And we can call this, I'll call this roof plan. And with this section, we have it over here. We can right-click on it, and we can click active, and so it is active, but it's probably just not low enough. So we can go to a side view here, and if we change our view to be, our camera to be parallel projection, it's just a little bit easier to see where that is. We can use our move tool, move this down slightly. There we go, let's select again, we'll click the move tool, move this down slightly, and you can see now it's cutting into our roof there. And now that we have our section cut set up, let's go to a top view, like so, and we can either keep this in our parallel projection, or we can make it in this view, and then we can just zoom in. And then once we find the view we like, I'm going to turn off my annotation section set up here, and we'll make sure this new section is in that view. And by default, all of our section lines are hidden. And then now we can just save this as a new scene. So we'll add this to our scene. We'll call this roof view. Like so. And it just uses that active cut area to create that scene. So I don't know what is going on here, why that's solid, but we can go into our tags, we can turn on our annotation, and we could theoretically grab this section and lower it a little bit more if we want to. Maybe we go up a little bit. I think it must be something in here is I don't know, it looks like it's painted inside here. So we can just adjust that material. Instead of painting it, we can go to color or in model, just grab color this blue. I do not know what is going on here. I think it's just because it's, let's see if we can get into this blue here. Oh, it's just because that's our actual section, that's why. And I think it's just, maybe just black because of the style we have on. Materials. We must have painted something inside. I think I painted the fascia, so that's why it all went black like that. But anyways, we've got our different views here. And so now that we have our views, we can flip through our different scenes up here, and we can see our building. Oh, and I think actually it might be black too, because it's just shading and ink, so we're cutting through it. So that's probably another reason with our setup here. So now that we have a few 3D views, we can bring these into Photoshop and start working with them. And so with that, I showed you how I changed it to shade with textures. When we bring something to Photoshop, we probably want to bring it in as hidden line, because then we can apply our own textures. So let's go up here to File. We can go to Export 2D Graphic. And before we export this, we're going to go down here to Options, and we're going to change our width to be 3000. And again, that just creates a better size of our image there. And then we can click OK. And we'll call this, let's add a name to this. This is called our front porch view. And then the other thing for my sanity, I'm going to add a date. And I just do 2025_11/26. That's just how I format my dates. If you know you're going to be exporting a bunch of images, you can add a timestamp. And I usually do this in 24-hour time. So I'll call this 10:55. And then again, that just keeps me organized with my files. So we can export this. Now that it's exported, I have both Affinity Design Tool open here and Photoshop, and so we can just briefly kind of show how to set this up. So we want to pick our board size. We could pick, let's see if we can find an ArcV size. If we can't quickly, we can adjust. So I'll just click this one here. We'll change our width, and depending if you want vertical or horizontal, make our width 36. I don't actually know if it says in if it needs to be vertical or horizontal, but I'll make this horizontal, so make our width 36, our height 24. So we've got a canvas here. Let's do the same in Photoshop. Let's go to New File, and we can pick, let's see if we can find ArcV here. No, that's going to open up a link. Let's not do that. Let's just change it. Let's go 36, 24, and we'll click Create. So we have a board in both of these. The one cool thing, I think, about most of these programs, and I don't actually know where the button is, but we can turn on rulers, and rulers are really useful because you can start setting up guides with rulers. And so now that I have my ruler on, the one cool trick with rulers is if we grab the ruler and click with our mouse, click and hold, and we drag over, we can actually drag over a guideline. And so now you can use these guidelines lines to set up and organize your workflow. You can also go into view, you can go to guides, and you can go to new guide layout. And you can also specifically create some sort of funky layout. So you can have columns and grids. You could have gutter of maybe like 50 pixels or 100 pixels, whatever you decide is appropriate. And then maybe you have maybe we'll have like 8 by 8 or 8 by 10 maybe. Figure out how to get that in more of a square form, and you could use less or more grids, completely up to you. So we'll go to 8, and we'll take this down to 6. Seems like these numbers are working well proportionally. And we can click OK. And you can see that we have some extra grids in here. So under our views, we can go to our guides. We can lock them, but we can also select those guides. We can delete them. I think I have this one here. This guide, so we can just delete those. And then once you set up your guides the way you like, you can lock them. So we can go down here to guides, lock guides. And then you can't really adjust it or move it, but this helps you kind of stay organized with your layout. And so let's bring in that image that we had before. Let's see if I can find it here. And so let's go to here. And I think we have this image right here. So let's drag that into our Photoshop. See if that worked. It did not seem to want to work, so let's just go. Oh, it did work. Okay, it's just loading. So we've got our image in here, and now we can set this image up to work with our guides. So you can do something like this. We can click Enter. We can right-click on this. We can move my head up there. We can right-click on this. We can rasterize wherever that button is. I don't see rasterize. Where's the bottom? Oh, there it is. Yeah. And so once we rasterize, we can actually grab part of this image and just cut it off. And so now that kind of fits into our guides, and we can start photoshopping that. So that's a pretty easy way of getting going with that. Let's just jump over to Affinity here. I don't have a ton of experience with Affinity, but what we can do here, let's go to View, and let's see if we can turn on our ruler. Tools, maybe. Guides. So we do have a guide button here, so we can do, maybe we'll do the same thing, 8 by 6. And the cool thing you'll see with this here is it actually does have, a margin set up already, whereas our previous one didn't, so that would be something we could adjust. But we could have a margin here. This used fill, or we can have some outlines. We could change the color, maybe keep that same cyan blue, so we can keep organized. But we can place a grid, and then we can do the same thing. We can drag that image in, and that seemed to work a little bit more effectively. And again, like I said, what I might do with an image like this, I might go to full bleed, so I'll go all the way outside, and then I'll take this image and bring it in like this, and that should be it. And let's see if we can select, no, that's an artboard button, I don't want that. Let's see if we have, pencil selection maybe. Selection button somewhere in here. sure exactly how to work the selection tool in this program yet, but you can see pretty easily we can get somewhere with it, with adding images. The other technique you could certainly use, and I don't know where my layers went. Let's just hit Control Z and bring that back. The other technique you can also use is adding a box. So we could add some sort of object over top of our previous object to hide those edges. So that could just be a white box. So in here we have a bit of a gray, but we could just make that a white box, and that will help that disappear a little bit. So using the selection tools, using boxes, sometimes what I'll do, depending on the project, is I may just use a box just because I'm constantly changing images and I don't want to necessarily edit them every time. So I'll just make sure this box is in front of that other part, and we'll just edit that like that. So that's how to bring an image into both of these softwares. If you're struggling with Photoshop a little bit, definitely try Affinity. I'm just kind of starting to get to know the program myself, but it's like almost the same. And so I think if you're just starting to learn Photoshop, maybe because it's free, maybe it's a better idea to learn something that's a little more obtainable. But yeah, anyways, that's how to do that in both Photoshop and